Today, I'll be breaking down every major detail and theory surrounding Season 3, starting with one you won't see coming. Season 2 concludes with Gi-hun in a dark mental state. After surviving another round of deadly games, our protagonist is more determined than ever to bring down the organization behind it all. But the post-credits scene is where things get really interesting, and we get a glimpse of Young Hee's return. That's right, the giant killer doll from the red light, green light game in Season 1. But she's not alone. There's a mysterious boy doll introduced alongside her, and most importantly, we see a green light. Anyone who remembers Season 1 knows that green light means movement is allowed, but in the context of the ending, it means something much bigger. This green light appears to be connected to a railroad crossing, which many fans believe represents Gi-hun's crossroads. Will he continue his mission to destroy the games, or will he be pulled back into the games once again? The imagery is deliberately very open to imagination, leaving us with questions that Season 3 will need to answer. But perhaps the most intriguing element introduced at the end of Season 2 is the random chance minigame featuring colored balls. This new game mechanic seems designed to add an element of pure luck to the games, which aligns with the show's themes of fate and chance. But it doesn't end there. Squid Game wouldn't be Squid Game without its deadly challenges, and Season 3 will introduce many new games while potentially bringing back some favorites with insane upgrades. The random chance minigame glimpsed at the end of Season 2 appears to involve colored balls, suggesting a lottery-like element where players' fates are determined by pure luck. This represents a shift from the games in Season 1, which, while deadly, at least gave players some agency through skill or strategy. Young Hee's return suggests that red light, green light might make a comeback, but with her boyfriend Chul-soo adding a new dimension of danger. Perhaps players will need to navigate between two dolls with different rules, making the game even more challenging. There's also speculation about games that might test players' moral choices more explicitly than before. Season 1 showed how desperation could turn allies into enemies, but Season 3 might force players to make impossible choices that reveal even more about human nature under extreme pressure. The railroad crossing imagery from the Season 2 finale hints at a possible game involving timing and split-second decisions. Perhaps players will need to cross tracks while avoiding oncoming trains, or make choices that affect not just themselves but others as well. What makes these potential new games particularly interesting is how they might reflect Gi-hun's new perspective. He's no longer just a player, he understands the games from the inside. This knowledge could give him an advantage, but it could also make the frontman design games specifically to counter Gi-hun's strengths. The menacing floral imagery seen in promotional materials suggests a beautiful but deadly aesthetic for the new games, perhaps playing with the contrast between appearance and reality that has been a theme throughout the series. One of the most compelling mysteries in Squid Game is the frontman, revealed in Season 1 to be Hwang In-ho, the previous winner of the games, and brother of Detective Hwang Jun-ho. Season 3 will likely explore his transformation from victim to administrator in greater detail. What would drive a man who survived the horrors of the games to then perpetuate them? This question gets to the heart of the show's themes about how systems of oppression can co-opt even those who have suffered under them. There are several theories about the frontman's motivations. One suggests that he genuinely believes the games provide a fair opportunity for the desperate, more fair than the outside world where economic inequality is rampant. In his twisted logic, at least in the games, everyone starts with the same chance. Another theory proposes that he's being coerced or manipulated by the VIPs or some higher authority we haven't yet seen. Perhaps winning the games doesn't truly free you, it just changes your role within the system. A third possibility is that the frontman is playing a long game, working from within to eventually bring down the organization. This would align him with Gi-hun's goals, though their methods would differ dramatically. The relationship between the frontman and his brother, if Jun-ho is indeed alive, adds another layer of emotional complexity to this character. Their confrontation in Season 3 could be one of the most powerful moments in the series, but it only gets crazier from here. Season 3 will focus heavily on Gi-hun's mission to bring down the games. After winning in Season 1 and presumably surviving Season 2, he's no longer fighting just for himself but for all the players who have died and those who might be recruited in the future. This positions Season 3 as a story of resistance against a seemingly unbeatable system. Gi-hun will likely gather allies, possibly including other survivors or people who have lost loved ones to the games. There might even be insiders within the organization who secretly support his cause. The theme of resistance against oppressive systems has been present throughout the series, but Season 3 will bring it to the forefront. This aligns with creator Hwang Dong-hyuk's interest in social commentary about economic inequality and the dehumanizing aspects of capitalism. What makes Gi-hun's rebellion particularly interesting is how it might force him to confront his own complicity. He won the games, after all, and benefited from others' deaths. His guilt and desire for redemption drive his mission, but they also complicate it morally. There's also the question of what winning looks like for Gi-hun now. Is it enough to shut down this particular iterations of the games, or does he need to address the broader societal issues that make people desperate enough to participate in the first place? This question gets at the heart of whether real change comes from destroying corrupt systems or building better alternatives. The psychological toll of Gi-hun's journey will likely be a major theme in Season 3. He's experienced trauma after trauma, lost friends and allies, and carries the weight of survivor's guilt. His mental state will be as much a battlefield as the physical games themselves. Season 1 introduced us to the VIPs, the wealthy elite who watch and bet on the games for entertainment. Season 3 will likely expand on their role, and possibly reveal more about the global scope of these deadly competitions. There are the theories that similar games exist in other countries, each with their own cultural variations, but the same basic premise. Desperate people competing for money at the risk of their lives, and all for the entertainment of the ultra-wealthy. This global expansion would align with the show's themes about economic inequality as a worldwide phenomenon. It would also raise the stakes for Gi-hun's mission. He's not just fighting against one organization, but a global network of exploitation. The VIPs themselves remain somewhat mysterious, and we know they're wealthy and from various countries, but we don't know much about their individual motivations or how they became involved with the games. Season 3 might humanize them somewhat, showing that even the apparent villains have their own stories and justifications. There's also the question of who's above the VIPs in the organizational hierarchy. Is there a founder or leader who started the games? This person would be the ultimate antagonist, the embodiment of the system Gi-hun is fighting against. The international success of Squid Game itself makes this global expansion of the narrative particularly fitting. The show resonated worldwide because its themes of economic desperation and the commodification of human life are unfortunately universal. Season 3 could lean into this by showing how these issues manifest differently but persistently across cultures. One aspect of Squid Game that sets it apart from other survival thrillers is its focus on the psychological impact from the games. Season 3 will likely continue this, showing how the characters' experiences have changed them fundamentally. Gi-hun has already transformed from a gambling addict who neglected his family to a man with a mission, but that transformation came at a cost. He's witnessed horrific deaths, betrayed and been betrayed, and carries the weight of survival when so many others died. Season 3 will show us how these experiences continue to shape him. The frontman's psychology is equally complex. As a former winner, he knows exactly what the players are going through, yet he continues to administer the games. This cognitive dissonance must take a psychological toll, and Season 3 might show cracks in his composed facade. If Detective Jun-ho is alive, his psychology will be particularly interesting to explore. He witnessed the games firsthand and discovered his own brother's involvement. His mission to expose the truth has become deeply personal, and this conflict between professional duty and family loyalty could be a major theme. New characters introduced in Season 2 who survived to Season 3 will also show the immediate psychological impact of the games. Unlike Gi-hun and the frontman, who have had time to process their experiences, these characters will be dealing with fresh trauma. What makes this psychological focus so compelling is how it grounds the show's more outlandish elements in emotional reality. The games may be fantastical, but the fear, desperation, and moral compromises they induce are all too human. The green light glimpsed in the Season 2 finale is more than just a callback to the red light, green light game from Season 1. It's a symbol rich with potential meanings for Season 3. In the context of the original game, green light means movement is allowed. Players can advance toward their goal. Applied to Season 3's narrative, this could symbolize Gi-hun's freedom to move forward with his plan to bring down the games. The light has changed from red to green, suggesting a fundamental shift in the power dynamic. The green light is also associated with the railroad crossing, which itself is symbolic. Crossings represent choices, moments where paths diverge. For Gi-hun, this could represent his choice to actively fight against the system rather than try to forget about it and move on with his life. There's also a potential connection to The Great Gatsby, where the green light represents an unattainable dream or goal. If this literary allusion is intentional, it might suggest that Gi-hun's mission to completely destroy the games and the inequality they represent is ultimately impossible. He might be able to shut down this particular manifestation, but the systemic issues would remain. The contrast between the red light, stop, and green light, go, could also represent the moral choices characters face in Season 3. When should they stop and reflect on the consequences of their actions? When should they proceed despite the risks? This symbolic richness adds depth to what might otherwise be a straightforward thriller. It's one of the reasons Squid Game resonated so strongly with audiences worldwide. Beneath the surface level entertainment are layers of meaning that reward closer analysis. As the final chapter in the Squid Game saga, Season 3 will determine how the series is remembered in the long term. Will it be seen as a complete and satisfying narrative, or will it leave viewers wanting more? The show's global impact has been undeniable. It became Netflix's most watched series ever, inspiring countless memes, Halloween costumes, and even real-life, non-deadly recreations of the games. It brought Korean drama to mainstream Western audiences in an unprecedented way, and sparked conversations about economic inequality worldwide. We can only hope that if Squid Game Season 3 does well, they take it around the world, since it's clearly so loved in places other than Korea. We could maybe see a Squid Game, USA, or UK. But everything leaves us with the question, how does the Squid Game end? First theory, that is the most popular, is that Gi-hun succeeds in exposing and shutting down the games, but discovers they're just one manifestation of a global system of exploitation. The ending is good, but not enough. He's won a battle, but not the war. Theory 2 is that Gi-hun infiltrates the organization, but discovers that destroying it from within requires becoming what he hates. The series ends with him as the new frontman, believing he can run the games more humanely, but ultimately perpetuating the system. This isn't as bad as the next one, though. The theory 3 is that the games are exposed to the public, but instead of outrage, there's demand for them to continue as public entertainment. This dark ending would suggest that the problem isn't just the secret games, but a culture that values entertainment over human life. Theory 4 is that Gi-hun discovers that the games serve some purpose he hadn't considered, perhaps as a check against even worse exploitation. This morally ambiguous ending would force viewers to question their assumptions about the game's inherent evil. Theory 5 is the resistance succeeds, the games end, and the wealth of the VIPs is redistributed to former players and families of those who died. This optimistic ending would suggest that systemic change is possible, though perhaps at great cost. If you enjoyed this breakdown and want to watch my full breakdown on the Season 3 trailer, click the video on the screen.